YouTubers, welcome back. My name's Dave. You found do it yourself, do it right. Got my Common Motors trucker hat on. Also got my Coastal Empire Moto shirt on. That can only really mean one thing. We're gonna talk vintage bikes, and not just bikes. We're gonna talk about the tools you are gonna need and would be nice to have if you plan on working on a vintage bike. Now, not all these tools are going to be required. You know, some of them are nice to have kind of tools, but these are tools that I use. Also, these tools can carry over for if you're working on a Shadow or a Valkyrie or a Boulevard, a Vulcan, Harleys, whatever. Interchangeable. I will point out the tools that are specific for the vintage bikes. And I'm talking about like, carburetor sync kits and stuff like that. Stuff you don't need on the new bikes because they're all fuel injected. So, get ready. We are going to talk tools today. So the tools that I'm going to show you, I kind of got them spread out around the whole garage. They're really in no specific order. I just kind of brought them out, set them out. And I made a list because I was going to forget a few. So, yeah, let's jump right in. We're gonna start right here and we're gonna work our way around. And I'm trying not to make this too long a video, just a quick overview of tools you're gonna need. So the first one right here in this little cool case, it's a must-have, really. It is a heat gun. You don't have to have this brand. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm not saying go out and buy this exact heat gun, but you will need a heat gun. Those hard to get out bolts use heat. If you're working on wiring, you gotta use some shrink wrap, or not shrink wrap, but heat shrink. You need a heat gun. So yeah, definitely a heat gun. And then obviously you guys can read the label. This is a carb sync kit, and this is for anything that you have 2 carburetors or more. So there she is. It's got the four gauges, and then all the little attachments up here for your carburetors and tubes. I use this a lot after you rebuild a bike, get it running right. You want to get those carbs synced just right, otherwise it won't run to its potential. That kit I did get off the A to Z website, and I will show you which one it is. I'll try to put links or at least part numbers to all these tools in the description below, so you guys can just go down there and look. This next little kit that I have, it's a wrench set, but it's a get open. Here we go. It's a offset wrench set. So basically, I bought this whole set for this particular wrench. It is a metric. It's a number 10. Metric number 10. If you are working on valve clearances, you got to set your valve. This sucker gets right down in there. You can hold on to the nut, and then you can adjust the valve, and then you can just go ahead and tighten that sucker down. This sucker saves a lot of cuss words. It gets, people don't like that when that's all they hear coming out of the garage when you're trying to set your valve lash. So yeah, that helped out. Not as many cuss words. And then these 2 little things over here, these are nice to have. You definitely need a little plastic box that you can set, put all your little parts in, especially when you're cleaning carburetors. I have several of these. Just throw each little carburetor piece in there. You keep them separate. Simple. You can buy those at Lowe's or wherever. You can get them at the dollar store. Pretty sure I got that one at the dollar store. And then this little kit here. This little kit is a splice kit. Like an environmental splice kit. Because old bikes, lots of old wiring, and you're gonna have to splice in wires, butt connectors and whatnot. But yeah, you're definitely gonna need a wire kit. Common Motors, I'm not sponsored, but Common Motors, they've got a nice wiring kit with all the little connectors that you are gonna need. So yeah, definitely if you're working on a vintage bike, definitely check out Common Motors. They provide parts for 350s, 360s, 450s, 550s, and I believe they're now starting to get into 750 parts, but don't quote me on that. I haven't been on their website in a little bit. So all right, moving on. So if you watched any of my previous videos, you know that I really tout this this GearWrench set. This is a GearWrench set, and it has all of the star sockets and hex bits, long, short, even have the ones with the ball ends. This kit even has the stars with the locks. So if you see a star and it's got a little circle thing in the middle, you're gonna need this little guy to get it out, because it's got the hole in the center. But this whole kit, man, this was probably the most helpful kit once I bought it. You know, you're always fumbling around trying to find the right star set, the right hex. It's you know, it's a pain. You know, Harleys, they're all going to this. You know, if you buy a dress-up kit for the old vintage bikes, the dress-up bolt kits, they're all hex. You know, everybody's, you know, they're going to the hex. You know, I guess they're easier to get in and off, get on and off, and you know, so you're definitely gonna need some hex kits or hex sockets. And this kit pretty much has them all. This kit doesn't have like the square sockets. I've noticed that you know, a lot of building stuff is square. So if you plan on trying to use this for, you know, like building screws and stuff, it doesn't have the squares. It's strictly hex and the star, and you know, that's it. But it's really nice. This thing it's good quality, and it's got this nice carrying case. Now these do pop out from time to time, but you know, you just pop them back in. It's not a big deal. But yeah, I highly recommend picking up that kit or a kit like it, because it's, like I said, I pull that kit out and I'm back and forth all day long. So enough on that. You know, you'll hear me talk about that a lot in my videos. So not to beat a dead horse deader, but there you go. And then obviously, you know, this next thing you're gonna need, man, you're gonna need a flashlight. That's just you know, easy peasy. This is a Streamlight. It's you know, rechargeable, ProTech, whatever. Super powerful, you know, really bright, as you can see. It's nice because it just plugs into any old regular charger, like a cell phone charger, and you can charge it up, and it doesn't take very long. So that flashlight's really nice. It was a little pricey for a flashlight, I will admit, but it's definitely a nice flashlight. Now this next thing, as Tim Taylor would say, you know, it's not a Binford, but it is a blowtorch. And you know, you got those really hard to get out bolts, you just might have to try and melt them out. And that sucker, you know, it gets hot. It'll get them out. So you know, a little blowtorch always helps. Can never go wrong. You know, they're nice to light off firecrackers too. So moving down the garage a little bit, you're gonna want to pick yourself up an air compressor if you don't already have one. Now I do wish I would have bought the bigger brother to this one, because you know, the air tank, if you're using air tools, you know, you gotta bzzz for a while, then you gotta wait for it to build pressure. So I probably should have bought a bigger one. That's probably on the to buy list, but right now this one, you know, works fine. And then of course, you know, you need battery chargers and whatnot. So then I got these other tools laid out here on my toolbox. The toolbox itself is definitely a must-have if you plan on doing you know, some maintenance and you want to keep your tools nice. So we're gonna start off at the top. This is a metric ratchet wrench set. It's a GearWrench. You don't necessarily have to buy a giant one like this. This one goes from 8 to 24. I bought this one because, you know, I work on aircraft, and in the aircraft world you need a whole bunch of different sizes. So, you know, I bought a big one, so I use that on my bikes also. And then I picked up a smaller 7 and an 8 just because this kit didn't have it. Actually, they're a 7 and a 6. I'm corrected. Moving on. This is a steel wool, and this is a 00. Typically, I like to use the quad 0, the super fine stuff, but I couldn't find it at Lowe's, so I got the 00. And what I use that for is it cleans up your chrome beautifully. All right, so continuing on. If you hear that noise, you know, that's my neighbor. He somehow has a knack of knowing when I'm trying to shoot a video, so I apologize for that. You know, it never fails. Whenever I try to shoot a video, he comes out and start messing around in his yard. So anyways, continuing on. The other stuff, you know, back here, this is a arrow coil. Now this stuff is awesome. It's also expensive, and I put this on pretty much every bolt that I'm getting ready to take out of a bike that I just pulled out of a garage. You know, it gets in there, it says it's the oil that creeps. That's their motto, and it does. It works pretty well. I believe it works a lot better than, you know, the water displacement 40. So definitely get some of that coil. It works good. And then in the back here, obviously this is just the impact. I use it as a screwdriver. I also use it, I basically use this for everything. It's only an 18 volt, so some things it just doesn't have the ass to get it out, but you know, it works great on regular screws and whatever, you know, getting bolts and stuff out. I do use that a lot. And of course, this is a Hitachi. Obviously you can use whatever brand that you like, but you know, definitely one of those. And then we're gonna get into some, you know, technical stuff. Here we have a, you know, a little caliper. This is the digital kind. These are nice, you know, if you're trying to measure anything. Obviously that's what they're used for. You measure stuff. Definitely use one of these. I use this a lot. And then obviously a torque wrench. Now I have a whole bunch of different torque wrenches, you know, all different sizes, but I definitely use this one probably the most. This is a I believe it goes down to 20, or I think it's either 20 or 30, and this is a gear driver. I like this one because it's small. I have several others in the box over here that I just seem to use this one more than all the rest of them, because of the size, because it is small, it is compact. I do have a smaller one actually that I use also, but this one I use the most. And then if you're working on any, you know, 4 cylinders, those plugs are deep. You know, unfortunately I don't have a 4-cylinder here, so I could show you, but this little plug wrench gets down in there, and obviously, you know, you can move that around to loosen the plug up. You know, I couldn't get my 550 running until I got one of these to change the plugs. So if you're working on a 4-cylinder, a 350, you know, 500, 550, 750, definitely get one of these plug wrenches. It saves some time. So that's definitely a vintage bike specific. You could probably use it for other bikes also. This is definitely a vintage bike specific. This, you use this little guy here to sync your carburetor. So if you look on the end here, it's a little cross tip. Or not a cross tip, I'm sorry, it's a flat tip. And you have to go all the way down. You got to reach down into the carburetors, get on a little nut. You use this end to break the nut loose, and then you use the flat tip to adjust the carburetor, to sync the carburetors. And if you guys don't know what syncing your carburetor is, it's a little time consuming. You know, I've gotten fairly good at it, but it is time consuming. So you definitely got to have one of those. And then moving on, a multimeter. Again, you know, I probably should have put this over there with the electrical stuff, but you definitely need a multimeter. You're checking voltage. You check everything with a multimeter. So you're definitely gonna need one. This is actually a cheaper one. I do have a Fluke that I use on aircraft again, but I use that little one because it's nice, it's handy, and it's loud. Actually, if you're doing continuity, it's pretty loud. So I use that a lot. Also, I have a little different. I have clips, as you can see. I put a little quick disconnect. So I got alligator clips that I can use. So definitely a multimeter, and that obviously you can use a multimeter on your new bikes, your old bikes, you know, all the bikes. If you're having electrical issues, but definitely pick one of those up. You can get them. You can get them at any auto parts store. They're all over. You don't have to have the best. You know, you don't have to have a Fluke. I just have a Fluke because you know, I got it on sale. And you know, when you're working with aircraft, you want something that's really nice and precise. So the last thing here on my toolbox is carburetor parts cleaner. Now I really wish I had a ultrasonic cleaner, but this, you know, this works. I've seen people, you know, make their own homemade ultrasonic cleaner with these, but basically what's inside of there is a carburetor cleaner. There's a little bucket in there. You throw all your little car parts in the bucket, and then what I do is I just let it sit. I let the parts sit in there for a day or so, and then I pull them out, and then I spray them off with, you know, compressed air compressor, or you know, some carburetor cleaner spray, stuff like that. It definitely cleans out all those little jets and passages. And if you don't want to spend money on a whole carb rebuild kit and you're cleaning out the jets, you definitely need some of this stuff. This stuff works great. Before I move on to the lift area, I do want to show you this one thing. I was talking about this carburetor cleaner stuff. If you are cleaning out jets, this little jet cleaning kit is also highly recommended. Now you don't need it. I've cleaned plenty of carburetors without these jet cleaning kits, but they work pretty well. And you know, now the neighbor is making even more noise. So, you know, again, I apologize. But that's the joys of living in a neighborhood, you know, living in a subdivision. So here we are, moving on over to the lift. Now the lift itself is a nice thing to have. This is a Harbor Freight lift. If you look down here, it's a Pittsburgh. It's the Pittsburgh brand. I'll get you in closer. It's 1,000-pound capacity, so you know it's supposed to be able to lift everything. And it does a good job. It does a good job with my vintage bikes. You know, the smaller bikes. You get the two Harleys on there, and you know, it gets a little top heavy. You know, I worry. The last time I had Charlene on there, I was a little worried. So the lift is nice. It's definitely for smaller bikes. If you have a Harley and you want to do a lot of work on your Harley, I would definitely recommend buying a bigger one, buying probably a air-powered one, a pneumatic one. You hook up the air to it, and you know, it goes up. This is you obviously you kick this one. This little lever here makes it go up. Makes it go up, and then this little lever here, when you push it, it goes down, up and down. Now those levers, they do come off if you're, you know, pressed for space. I don't ever take mine off, but you know, they do come off if you want to take them off. The other thing over here is on this side. This is a nice thing. It's got a little bar, little safety bar in case the hydraulic jack you know, lets loose. You put the bar in there, and it only allow it to go down so far. It does have two settings. This is the lower one. You can jack it up even higher and then put the bar in that hole. And it's got leveling, you know, little leveling things. Not on that end, but this end. You know, you adjust these to level it up. And it's got tie downs. You need some not zip ties, but you need a tie strap or a cargo strap. Yeah, I can't think for this morning. And then it does have a wheel chock. I don't typically use the wheel chock all that much. You know, it is what it is. I just on the vintage bikes, I roll it in, and then you gotta roll it back to get it on the center stand. And then, you know, I could move the bike over and clamp the wheel, but I just strap it down most of the time, and they don't ever go anywhere. It does have a wheel guards when you roll it up in here, like the bigger bikes. You know, you can't roll it off. So that is nice. You know, for a cheap lift, it's a good cheap lift. Like I said, if you're really buying a lift to work on big bagger Harleys, you would probably want a bigger lift. But if you're working on smaller bikes, you know, these old vintage bikes, you know, like this Yamaha, you know, the little 350, you know, fits on here perfectly. It's like the perfect size. So it's plenty big enough for what I'm doing. I do have a motorcycle jack, and I am going to show you that on the other side once I'm done with this one. But the other thing that I wanted to show you that I almost forgot about is that it has this little thing here you can take off and slide it all the way up, and that's so you can get your wheel off. You can, you know, take your wheel loose and then drop it down, so you can drop it down and out. So that's nice. It also has a ramp that goes on here right there. It's actually underneath the car. I store it under there for space. You know, I pull it out and put it on when I want to get the bike off the lift. But you know, that's nice. The lift, like I said, you know, the lift is nice. But if you're working on a big Harley or a Valkyrie or some real big heavy bike, this lift would not be for you. You would definitely want a bigger one. So moving on, this is my little pancake lift, and I use this a lot again with the vintage bikes when I'm taking the front tire off. Slide it up underneath here and jack it up, and this, you know, it just, you screw these in, screw them out, and it goes up and down. This is made in China, unfortunately. I also got it from the AZ website. Pretty cheap. I think I was like 40 bucks. Comes in handy. I use it for the big bikes. I use it for the little bikes. So, you know, that's a dual purpose. You definitely need straps. You know, if you're gonna work, you definitely need straps. Yeah, here we go. This I use a lot. This is something that I just bought, and I've used it a bunch already. It's a brake bleeder kit, and I use it on, you know, new and old. It's a pneumatic, so it hooks up to your air compressor, and it basically just works as a suction. You hook it up to your air compressor line here, and it's gonna fall down. Hook up your air compressor line here. You hook up to your brake bleeder here, and then you just, and it sucks the fluid through, and it does it. Oh boy, I'm gonna need a new tube already. But you know, it just does it with air pressure suction. And this little guy here, it goes into your reservoir, like say up here, your brake reservoir. This guy goes up into your brake reservoir like so, and it holds the fluid, so your brake reservoir never runs out of fluid, so you're not sucking air into your brake system. So it's real nice. I've used it on the bike, and I've used it on the you know, the old car when I'm working on the brakes, which is often because the brakes suck. So yeah, so moving on, we're gonna roll over and show you the jack. All right, so over here we got the jack on the floor. It is a Strongway jack, and it's a 1,500 pound capacity. I do use this when I'm jacking up Charlene or the Road Glide. It works pretty nice. I got this jack from Northern Tools. I looked at the ones at Harbor Freight, which, you know, it's basically the same jack, but this one seemed like it was built a little better. There are some things that I don't like about it. I don't like that the handle, which is right here, it doesn't really attach anywhere. You just kind of put the handle on there and you pull it around. I don't really like that. And the other thing that I don't like is that when the bike is up in the air and you're letting it down off the jack, it's kind of hard to, you know, move this lever and hold the bike at the same time. Now, you could use the handle, I guess, but I just don't think that was thought out very well. And that was probably a miscue on my part. I should have got one that had to, you know, like a handle that I could hold onto up here while I'm standing up and the bike's up in the air. You know, it is what it is. The things I do like about it is that it is made real well. It's stout. It's she's a strong little jack. It does roll nice and easy. You know, that's not a, you know, no complaints there. It does have brakes for your wheels. So I got it on sale. It was on sale. I picked it up. So I really, you know, pros and cons to everything. But it's a must-have if you're working on your bikes. Definitely a must-have. So I'm gonna go back over here to the toolbox. I'm gonna let you see the toolbox. The toolbox is also a Harbor Freight toolbox. It's a U.S. General. But don't let that fool you. This box is nice. They really stepped it up. This top drawer, it's got dual ball bearing rollers. You know, it's nice and stout. And you know, this is my tools. Now I have it separated, so you know, standard stuff over here, metric stuff over here, and of course I have everything shadowed because I do, like I said 100 times, I do work on aircraft. So this is a standard. You know, you want all your tools shadowed, so when you get done working on aircraft, you put all your tools back and make sure you didn't lose a tool, because you know, a lost tool on an aircraft is no joke. You don't want that aircraft flying around with a loose tool in there. So that's why we do this shadowing. So that was all. And then I got, you know, my wrenches, standard ratcheting, standard regular. Those are metrics and standard Allen keys. You know, all my pliers. You know, obviously you don't need all of this stuff. I'm just showing you the toolbox. Show you how nice the drawers. How the drawers roll in and out. Super nice. Not really anything in here that's a must-have. I did start my air tools. So yeah, this toolbox, if you're looking for a toolbox for, you know, just general purpose tools for your garage, you know, your shed, wherever, that toolbox, I believe it was $400, and I got it. You know, I wait till Harbor Freight sends out those 30% discount stuff, those coupons, and then I go pick up whatever they have on sale. So you get one on discount, or if you're military, they do offer a military discount. You don't have to really wait. Now I believe the military discount's only like 10%. So the 30% discount coupons they send out, man, those are like gold. I save on those. So yeah, that toolbox is definitely something that Harbor Freight puts out that's really nice. And then lastly, I'm going to show you the car jack that I use. And I know it doesn't pertain to motorcycles, but I have used it on my motorbike. You know, this is a 3-ton Daytona jack, and this is nice. You know, it's got the jack you turn, and I brought you over here to show you jack, but you also see kitty litter. You know, old bikes, they leak oil. If you get oil on your concrete, don't fear. You just throw some kitty litter on there and clean it up. It does a good job. So, oh, I did forget two things actually. Up high, I got this this guy here. Got this off from the A to Z store as well. And this is a fuel tank. If you put gasoline in there, if you got your bike on the stand and you don't have a gas tank on it, or the gas tank is rusty and you're cleaning it, you just hook the hose up to your carburetors. And you know, it's a, you know, gravity fed. And that's the brand that I used. It's the one that I bought. It's on Amazon. And then last, but definitely not least, I guess, is a trusty little step stool. Now, that step stool, when you're working on it, when you're working on a bike and it's up in the air, you know, you want to be able to step up. So, you know, step stool. It's a must. It's a must-have if you have a lift and you're working on your bike. But if not, you know, step stool, you can sit on it. It'd save you from buying, you know, your little stool like this thing here, which is also really nice to have. Not required, but you know, I like to sit down and watch golf. So yeah, those are the tools that I recommend buying or having. If you could borrow them from your neighbor, maybe, you know, if they have a jack. But yeah, that's about it. So I think that's going to do it for this short video. Like I said, if you guys have tools that you use constantly and I didn't go over one of them, you know, put that down in the comment block. I'll definitely check them out. So like always, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's free. Why not? You know, it doesn't cost you anything. And you know, speaking of that, I'm never gonna try to charge you money to watch my videos. You know, I'm not gonna do the whole pay subscribe thingy. It's just not what I do. My videos are out there to try to help people out. You know, if you're working on a bike or a car, that's what I'm doing. You know, I'm just trying to get information out there for people to use. I'm not trying to have you pay me for my information. Or the information that I have that I've received from somebody probably for free. So why would I charge you for it, right? So now that I rambled on about that, you know, subscribe. It's free. Go ahead and hit that notification bell so you know when a new video comes out, and share. You know, you share. Maybe your buddy sees it, and he wants to work on a vintage bike and he doesn't know what tools to buy. You know, so share. Definitely get the word out. Well, get the channel going. You know, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. You know, that's the goal. 1,000 subscribers. So if you didn't know already, I got an Instagram page putting up previews of all my videos. Previews of the big videos that I'm doing, like the modifications on the Road Glide and, you know, the car under the cover, because that video hasn't come out yet. You know, those videos I'm doing previews. These small little weekend videos, no, I'm not gonna do a preview for that. So like I said, go ahead, subscribe, hit that notification bell, follow me on Instagram at Dave DIY Dave B. Also go on the old Facebook. I started a group page. That group page is do it yourself, do it right, and I'm looking for all DIY projects on there, not just bikes and motorcycles. You know, if you made something for your house, go ahead and throw it up there, because I like looking at those too. And man, whew, I think that's it. So like always, till next time, thanks a lot. Every motorcycle laughs normally, except for the one that I own. It just laughs like Yamaha ha 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 ha.